Hey folks, and welcome back to the Sports Chief NASCAR DFS preview. I'm Austin, so I'm bringing you here at week 11. That's a Gander RV 400 at one of my favorite tracks at Dover International Speedway. It's roughly like a mile of concrete track, and it's very high speeds. Um, this is the kind of track that I love picking as far as DFS goes. A lot of the times when you pick these kind of tracks, it's a lot of driver. So you want to pick kind of the best driver in the field that kind of matches this style. So a good thing to do is look at the history of the past performances of the drivers in the starting lineup and kind of see where they're at. Look at how they're doing as far as practice speeds go and things of that nature. It's very important. Starting position is pretty key in general in DFS stuff. You always want your guy to start on the lower side. That way they kind of pass a couple cars and maybe finish in a good spot. Drivers to note here, Jimmy Johnson's like 11-time winner here at Dover. He's dominated this place, and he hasn't won in a while, so he's one to look out for. And there's just a few other guys to look out for. Just to recap on how I did last week, Talladega was not very friendly to me, so that was a pretty rough go of it. So hopefully we can right the ship here at Dover, Delaware, and hopefully we can give you some good tips here. I'm going to walk you through my Dover lineup, Gander RV 400 lineup here. So let's take a look at it here. Looking here at the top of the board is Kyle Busch starting in 22nd spot, averaging a whopping 72 fantasy points per race. He's coming in at $12,400, which is pretty expensive, but hey, he's starting in 22nd. Joey Logano's the second most guy there at 11.8, starting in 4th. Harvick starting in 6th. Excuse me. Keselowski in 9th and Truex in 13th. That's your sub or plus 10K guys. Pretty much the same every week. They kind of stay like that. Ryan Blaney, I believe, had a few weeks where he was 10 plus, but pretty much standard guys there. And you got Chase Elliott, who's got the pole. One interesting thing to note about Chase Elliott is he is awesome at Dover, Delaware. I think he is like definitely averaging a top 5 finish, like a 5th place average finish. He's always getting top 10, top 5 here. He's won once. He won last year towards the end of the year, the second Dover race. So him with the pole and just winning Talladega, I'm sure his confidence is at an all-time high. So what I'm going to do here is, in my approach, I really look at the practice speeds. I look at guys who don't have a lot of tire, fall off on long runs, because Dover is a long, grinding race. It's not a lot of cautions typically, because you're just on. They're on edge all the time. But you don't want to, make too many mistakes. So they drive a lot of cautious driving too in this race. But it just looks insane the way they come off those walls and everything at that. They're going around this track in 21 seconds, 22 seconds. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at practice speeds. And some guys to note, the fastest cars in practice, Martin Truex was one of the fastest cars in practice. He's got a history of winning here. This is one of his better tracks. I believe he calls it like his home track, which, he's from New Jersey. But I really like Truex this week, especially in that 13th starting spot. And I think a lot of people may go towards that Kyle Busch. The thing is, if you pick Kyle Busch, you won't have a lot of money to spend, and it's going to be tough to get a lot of those lower price guys to finish good here, because it really is a track where it's tough to pass. I know the new engine package and everything. I think they're running the 700 some horsepower one, so it's going to be interesting to see. But if you look at past performances here, a lot of guys at Dover, they start pretty well, and they kind of hang around that spot. And Truex is in 13th, and I think he'll just methodically make his way through to the front. Another guy who I thought was bad fast, actually led the first practice, was Kurt Busch. Starting in 19th spot, Kurt Busch is just a solid finisher. He's almost an automatic top 10 every week you go somewhere, and Chip Ganassi looks like they've got some fast engines coming to the track here. And another guy, Eric Jones, he's very fast. Top 5 in lap averages, top 10 in speeds in both practices. This is a track that I believe he can, he's been slumping here of late, and I think he'll really bring it in at 15th spot. Good chance he gets a top 10, could win the race for sure. He's Very talented driver, of course. And now, that kind of brings my salary down to $7,400, which makes it pretty interesting. Some guys that you look towards the bottom here, and this is a race where I'm kind of like, I want to pick all my top guys first and then see what I've got. I don't trust any of these guys down here at the bottom. I would start probably around David Reagan, but he's starting 24th. Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain's a tough one to go with there. I just don't know. Horsepower is very important here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll up through here. And I've got some guys in mind that I really think are great at Dover. Byron is pretty good at Dover. He's starting in second, though. Byron typically starts in great spots. He's just hard to pick because he's got to pretty much win the race for him to be worth your pick. Then you got Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher, Ricky Stenhouse, Daniel Suarez. You're starting up there with Jimmy Johnson, and I think he's going to be very chalky. He was fastest in second practice, but his fall off was pretty heavy. Kyle Larson's a guy that I pick up almost every week, and I'm just waiting for him to bust out. And one thing I like about him is he's starting in third. William Byron's in second. Chase Elliott's in first. And, of course, fourth, you got Joey Logano there. But I think Kyle Larson's car is really hooked up this week. Him and Kurt Busch look like they had a lot of speed. I'm going to go with Larson there at $8,000. That's an insane price for a guy that could lead. He could lead 200 laps in this race. That is very likely. And I think that, even though Chase is starting on the pole, I can't see Chase, well, I better not say this here, but I can't see Chase taking off and leading that many laps here. His car is fast, but it's not been that fast in practice to the point where, Larson and maybe even Logano, I feel like those guys are going to be really eating him up. Byron, I don't see Byron hanging around there, or Bowman. I see them falling back a little bit. So, I've got Larson there, and he's very good here. He's just never won. He's got a top 12, I believe, average finish here. Your best drivers right now are at this track are Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, and another guy that's actually averaging 6th place finish is Daniel Suarez. The man has got a top 10, I believe, at every start he's made here, or pretty close to it, I believe, every start. And he looked pretty fast. He was a top 10 car, and starting in 14th, I think it's very likely he finishes above that 14th spot. And this kind of puts me in a tough spot. Now I've got $6,500 to spend. Now I've got to choose one of these guys down here, the value picks, bargain picks. Ryan Preece, I just don't trust his speed right now. Ty Dillon, it's going to be tough to trust him. I'm basically down to two guys to me. And it would be Daniel Hemrick and the number 8 RCR car, RCR engines, or Bubba Wallace and the Richard Petty Motorsports Chevy. Both those guys kind of have the same engine program, but I really like Daniel Hemrick. Daniel Hemrick, I had to do a little researching on him, and he finished top 5 and the last Dover Xfinity race he ran, and he's finished top 5 actually in a truck there like 4 or 5 years ago. So he's decent there, and I think him starting in 23rd spot, I think he'll do okay enough to the point where he'll finish around that spot. And that's really all I need him to do. Excuse me. And that's going to be my lineup right there. So as you can see here, Martin Truex, Kurt Busch, Eric Jones, Kyle Larson, and Daniel Suarez. And then rounding out my lineup will be Daniel Hemrick. So there you have it. North Carolina allergies kind of getting to me this week. But the Gander RV 400, our lineup there. Stay tuned. I believe it's coming on at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Check us out on Twitter at The Sports Chief or www.thesportschief.com. We also got an Instagram. Just check us out there. Ask any questions. I'm the DFS. Well, we all can help you, but I do a lot of the DFS stuff for NASCAR. So hopefully you take some of this advice. Maybe hear some of my reasoning will help you make your lineup. So I hope you have a happy race day and good luck to you.